It is time for an honest look at the problem of order in the United States.
The Southern strategy is the term historians use to describe Richard Nixon's use of coded language as a sort of dog whistle to racist voters in 1968.
Let us recognize that the first civil right of every American is to be free from domestic violence. So I pledge to you, we shall have order in the United States.
But often overlooked is an academic approach that's been used since the early 1950s to appeal to racist white sensibilities. Free market fundamentalism. Nearly all Americans believe in regulated, free market capitalism. It's the economic basis for democracy. However, free market fundamentalism is an extreme ideological position, a belief that unregulated capitalism in a free market with little or no governmental oversight is the most ethical, self-correcting model for society. Good actors get rewarded in an open marketplace, and bad actors go out of business, or so the theory goes. Individuals might be dishonest and corrupt, but the free market itself regulates such behavior so that only ethical businesses will succeed over time. This is an entirely theoretical belief system, one based on faith rather than fact, yet it's become the cornerstone of Republican economics. So why is it racist? Well, perhaps the most famous proponent of free market fundamentalism was Chicago School economist Milton Friedman, who in 1980 changed the conversation in U.S. economics with his influential book and video series, Free to Choose, which he co-authored with his wife, Rose. But Friedman was advancing his economic theories in the public square long before his ideas were embraced by the architects of Reaganomics. Friedman opposed 1941's FEPC, which banned racial discrimination by all federal agencies, unions, and private companies engaged in war-related work, because he opposed all state intervention in the marketplace. His 1955 essay, The Role of Government in Education, offered a strong critique of the Brown versus Board of Education decision, and of public education in general. He argued that if public education were privatized, there can develop exclusively white schools, exclusively colored schools, and mixed schools. Parents can choose which to send their children to. Friedman opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as well as the minimum wage, all based on his belief in free market fundamentalism.
We require employers to discriminate against them by not hiring them unless their productivity is enough to justify a minimum wage. The minimum wage rate is the most anti-Negro law in the books.
Although in a free market blacks would receive lower wages due to prejudice, Friedman admitted, each of us separately can try to offset such discrimination through our own economic activity as individuals, he told the Harvard Crimson in 1964. By being unprejudiced and hiring Negroes, we get things at less cost. Not only does virtue triumph, it is even rewarded, unless one assumes that virtue resides in a person with black skin. Friedman's belief that free markets ultimately ensure fairness and equality can be viewed as deeply cynical or wildly optimistic, but it's without question an intellectual underpinning to the arguments that Barry Goldwater would use to campaign against all civil rights legislation in 1964. This economic framing provided a neat pivot for those who argued against racial equality to frame the exact same position as an argument for personal liberty. And it's not just Republicans who made that pivot.
I was a Goldwater Girl. I mean, really, we used to wear, little banners which said Goldwater Girl.
This reframing of racist rhetoric into discussions of free market capitalism has pervaded both sides of the national discussion ever since. But whether it's called individual freedom or free enterprise, the end result is always to limit the rights of black Americans. The average Southern voter had probably never heard of Milton Friedman in 1954 or 1964. he didn't gain prominence in the 50s or 60s, largely because he and most of his cohort in the Chicago, Austrian, and later the Virginia schools of economics were considered kooks and fringe dwellers by most conservatives. But Republican strategists certainly understood the real-world value of Friedman's central thesis, and the manner in which free market fundamentalism went from generating eye rolls from most Republicans to generating the ideas on which modern republicanism is built is the very heart of the long con.